Good afternoon, Alan Vandenberg here. Another episode of EQ for You, episode number 32. Today's episode is entitled Emotional Quotient and Reputation. Emotional Quotient and Reputation. We're operating off the idea that 75% of a person or team's success is not their IQ. So if you have not done so yet, please pick up a copy of my book, EQ Killed the Radio Star. It looks like this. You can get it at Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com, or of course, AlanVandenberg.com. My publisher said the best time to launch a book is during a pandemic, and that is absolutely not true at all. Be sure and subscribe to the YouTube channel for EQ for You, and I've got some upcoming episodes I'm really excited about. If you're looking for a keynote speaker for your organization or your group or your team, give me a shout, PM me, let's talk. I would love to bring emotional intelligence or emotional quotient discussion to you and your organization. So I've got something new today, along with the episode of EQ and Reputation, is I want to start talking about this idea of EQ and IQ music row. So we talk a lot about artists and things like that in presentations that I do. EQ Killed the Radio Star obviously is true, but I want to take just a minute out of every episode to maybe introduce you to somebody that is part of my record, CD, tape, although I don't have very many tapes, or my audio file collection. So today I want to introduce to you in the first of EQ and IQ music row, I want to introduce you to my favorite guitar player. His name is Lee Ritenour. Yeah, this is an old one from the 80s for sure. He was a session player in his early career, and at age 16, he did his first recording, session recording with the Mamas and the Papas. He played on everything from Pink Floyd to Aretha Franklin. The greatest part about Lee Ritenour that I really like is the fact that he plays rock, jazz, Latin, funk, soul, blues, any kind of music, because he was a session player in LA for years. So this CD or whatever, you can find it just about anywhere, YouTube it or whatever. It's called Earth Run from 1986. I'm going to put a link in the show notes, a link to The Sauce, which is one of my favorite songs that he has. And I got a chance to meet Lee Ritenour in 2019, the year before the pandemic. He's an amazing guitar player and a great guy. He was able to sign some stuff for me. He was just great. So EQ and IQ Music Row, Lee Ritenour, he's our first one, and we got to do a rating. So on an IQ scale, 1 to 5, Lee Ritenour is definitely a 5 because he can play anything. And because of his reputation, which is today's episode, for being such a great studio musician and collaborator with just about anyone and everybody in the music world, he gets a 5 for an EQ rating as well. So speaking of reputation, that is the name of our show today, EQ for You and EQ and Reputation. So let's talk about reputation. How are reputations created? Do people just make them up? No. Our reputation, all of our reputations, are created by our own consistent behavior over time, good or bad. Our consistent behavior over time creates reputation. Of course, I couldn't resist putting in bad reputation songs from Joan Jett, and of course, for my two girls, Taylor Swift, right? So how we create our thoughts around others, their reputation, is based upon the EQ tool of programming. In chapter 6 of my book, EQ Killed the Radio Star, we discussed the programming model and the programming tool. Programming is created much like reputations, from what we've seen, what we've experienced, and what we've been told. Consistent behavior over time results in us creating a reputation that we have. It also, consistent behavior over time, gives us a program about a reputations of other people as well. Think about a coworker or a relative that's always late to a meeting or events. Well, when I was a kid, we had a relative, unnamed, that was consistently late every time. So during the holidays, we would be waiting around, food's getting cold, this family shows up late every single year. So what did we do during the holidays? We would tell that family, look, we're gonna have dinner and it's gonna be an hour earlier. We would tell them it would be 1 o'clock, but it was really noon that we were gonna have holiday dinner. And guess what they did? They showed up on time because we told them the wrong time. But they clearly had a reputation. behavior over time, every time we had a function, a family function, they were late every time. So a person that has a reputation, consistent behavior over time for getting things done, will always be asked to lead important projects, right? Why and how they get completed, how they get these projects completed is programming, which creates that reputation. Those who handle difficult situations and difficult projects, they will be given the tough projects. Why? Because they have a program and a reputation of getting things done. It's easy to see how reputation in others, it's easy to see that. But what about us? Me, you? Could a person change their reputation and what people think about them and their reputation? As I've coached leaders over the past 2 decades, the answer is absolutely yes. You can change your reputation. You can change the programming that people have about you. How do you do that? Well, it's consistent behavior over time, and it is not easy. I have helped people try to do this, and they have failed. I have people that have done this, and they have changed their reputation, the programming that they have. But it does take time. See, the leader's reputation was created because of their consistent behavior over time. If you burn bridges, you'll be known as that. If you talk about others behind their back consistently over time, you will have a reputation for that. If you take credit for other people's work, you will have a reputation for that. If you only look out for number one, and that's you, and you're a leader, you will have that reputation, and that programming will be there as well. So how can you change that? If you want to change your reputation or the programming that others have of you, you need to focus on 2 areas. Number 1, know your strengths and know your weaknesses. And not only know them, but embrace them and own them. You can't be everything to everybody. So be yourself. Embrace, know, and understand your strengths. Whether that's Gallup Strengths Finder, whether that's the DISC profile, whether it's colors, whatever it is that's going to help your self-awareness, you need to do that in order to change your reputation if you want to do that. The second thing, which is really the hardest, is to change your behavior consistently over time. It's the hardest thing to do. How might this work? Well, I am not a detailed person. On the DISC profile and the Strengths Finder, I'm just not a very detailed person. But I have had responsibility for $500,000 budgets and help manage $30 million projects. So how did I do this? What's interesting is when I have a brainstorming session with a big group, and we do a whiteboard, my coworkers know that I'm a terrible misspeller. I can misspell words all over the place. I've never been a great speller. My entire life, I've never been a great speller. But I acknowledge that, and I accept that, and I accept the help from others when they see that I've misspelled a word on the whiteboard. Know your strengths and weaknesses, and consistently change your behavior over time. Word of caution for you here as we're kind of wrapping up here. If you're not authentic and you try to fake change your behavior, people are going to see it. They're going to see right through you because it's not authentic and it's not real. Be yourself. Don't be somebody that you're not. But if you want to change your reputation because you've burned some bridges, let's just say, or you've had some issues, you can do it, but you have to do it consistently, and it has to be authentic over time, right? So what is your consistent behavior over time that you want to focus on? Is it producing the results that you want? Because you ultimately own the input to your reputation, your behavior, and your results. Good or not so good, either way, your behavior equals what your reputation is of the other people think of you. So hopefully this was helpful for you today. I thought it was interesting talking about reputations, kind of how they're put together. The programming model is just a great tool. Programming comes from what we've seen, what we've heard, what we've been told, and what we've experienced about other people. That's how reputations are created, and that's how programming is created. So I leave you with this, the 3 parting thoughts that I leave every episode with. Find what you are born to do. Do that to the best of your ability. Don't allow anyone or anything to steal your joy and your happiness. And number 3, live life every day because nothing's guaranteed. All right, we'll talk to you soon. Thank you so much for watching. Talk to you soon.